Shalom, Israel. My name is Officer Kayal, one out of I.S.U.P.K, Jamaica. I.S.U.P.K started 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York. I.S.U.P.K is run by Commanding General Yahanna, the one man with the rank and the authority to lead Israel at this time. I say, Yahweh Ba'Hashem Yahweh Brakatam to my brothers. Yahweh Shamar Alatan Ba'Hashem Yahweh to my sisters. All right, so watch this now. So we're going to kick off the Sunday scripture breakdown class, you know what I mean, with its usual intro, you know what I mean, until my brother Abadawans comes in and kick off the official class. But the topic that we're going to touch on today is Haile Selassie, you know what I mean, because not only Rasta, you know, but people in general in Jamaica hold this man at high prestige, you know, saying that he's of some kind of divine nature, but I'm going to show to you today that this man was just, you know what I mean, a regular Eden, you know what I mean, who oppressed these people, you understand, who caused these people to go through famine, you get to me, I say, while squandering the money of the nation, and also he's not somewhere floating off, you know what I mean, as a spiritual God or anything that Rasta would like for us to think, or to think that he did not die. This man died the common death. You understand? Yeah, man, being overthrown by his own people. You get to me, I say, this man was not of any divine nature. He was just a regular man who got overrun by his own people because he was being oppressive to his own people. You understand? And we're going to show to you that, you know what I mean, he is not our king. And we should stop refer to him as Emperor Selassie here in Jamaica. Because he's not our emperor. You understand? This man was a poor emperor to his own people. You understand? So, without further ado, we're going to just jump in at the tape and show you what this man was really all about. You get me?
From the marriage of King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba. In 19... For 3,000 years, Ethiopia was ruled under a monarchy, with emperors as the hereditary rulers until its abolition in 1975. The emperors traced their origins back to biblical times. It was widely believed that they descended directly from the marriage of King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba.
Stop. All right. It was widely believed. I want to pay attention to that, because enough people have that as facts, It was among the Ethiopians that they believed that, you know what I mean, Selassie was descended from the marriage between Solomon and the Queen of Sheba. According to the Hebrew records, according to the Bible, no marriage took place between King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba. So that is just one more Eden lie. You know what I mean? Like these Edens like to do. They like to lie when it comes to Hebrew records. You understand? So those who are clear the ear with that. So just, you know what I mean? With that out of the way, let me just go into the video.
In 1974, Ethiopia entered a period of profound political, economic, and social change, frequently accompanied by violence. A period that historians would refer to as the Ethiopian Revolution. The confrontation between traditional and modern forces erupted and changed the entire nature of the Ethiopian state forever. In this 4-part series of history will take you through the history of the Ethiopian Revolution. Part 1. On the 2nd of November 1930, Rastafari Makonnen was crowned as the Emperor of Ethiopia. During his coronation, he changed his name to Emperor Haile Selassie, which meant power to the Trinity. It was here that his rule officially began, ruling Ethiopia a record of 44 years until his overthrow in 1974. Throughout his rule, Selassie attempted to modernize the country through a series of political and social reforms, including the introduction of Ethiopia's first written constitution in 1931 and the abolition of slavery. In 1930, Italy under Benito Mussolini invaded and occupied Ethiopia. The emperor was toppled and later left for exile in England. However, when...
Stop. I will stop right there, so see, to address some of the fake news that has been spread throughout the year in Jamaica by the Rastafari community. You see that this man single-handedly defeated Mussolini, or this brother, this Italian brother. See? Bear in mind what the author of this video said a while ago. He was toppled and he fled to England. All right, with that said, and bear in mind, it's not a white man attack, right? I say, you know, it's an African attack, you know. You understand? So if anybody want to come say, oh boy, a white man lie this and rare, we know the white man to be a liar. But this is an African speaking about a so-called African. You understand? Which we are not Africans, and we need to get that through with thick skulls. You understand? We are not Africans. You understand? So this man is making you know that Mussolini, Zayn, toppled Selassie government and he fled to England. Did Selassie and his entire nation fled to England? No. Selassie and his royal people them fled to England. In other words, Selassie abandoned his people. All right, let me get that straight.
When Italy joined the Second World War on the side of Hitler, Britain declared war on Mussolini and his colonial possessions. And so, in 1940, Italy was defeated in the East African Campaign and the emperor was reinstated as the ruler of Ethiopia by the British.
All right, stop. Zin, so watch this now. So he flee to the mother, the queen, you understand? He fled to the queen. Mussolini would have never been on the opposite side of England had they not joined with Germany, with Hitler. See? So because of that, the queen decided to go to war, or whoever led England at that time decided to go to war with Italy, overthrowing Italy, and they were the one, the British were the ones that put back Selassie in power in Ethiopia. So let me get this straight. Ethiopia went to war with Italy. Italy overthrew him. He fled. Not the entire Ethiopian population, you know. Selassie fled, left his Ethiopian people to England. England had to defeat Italy and reinstated Selassie as king of Ethiopia, emperor of Ethiopia again. So I don't want to come with this thing about Selassie overthrew Mussolini and defeated Mussolini. No such thing. You understand? Continuing.
On return, Selassie dissolved the Federation of Eritrea and Ethiopia, which had been established by the UN General Assembly. He then integrated Eritrea as a province of Ethiopia, among other reasons to have access to the Red Sea, a move that was backed by the US, who also wanted a secure base in Massawa and Asmara. However,
all right, so basically it was backed by the US, right? I will show you later down in the video if we can get to touch into it, where his people protest him, saying that he was a US puppet. All right, continuing.
This move would later be among his undoing for him as well as his successors. During the 1960s, the emperor faced strong resistance on several fronts. An Oromo uprising erupted in the Bale province in southern Ethiopia, lasting for 7 years. Somali insurgents in Ogaden formed the West Somali Liberation Front, aiming to drive out the Ethiopians and create an independent state. In Eritrea, the Eritrean Liberation Front launched a war of independence against Ethiopia that eventually required an entire division of Haile Selassie's troops to contain. The situation couldn't have been worse for the emperor, when an increasingly radical student movement in Addis Ababa, the capital, labeled him as an American puppet and his feudal landlords as the enemy of the people.
All right, so the people figure it out. Them realize US is using this man, Haile Selassie, as their puppet to carry out their agenda. You understand? So the people rebelled. You understand? Them never want Selassie to be their leader no more, because guess what go on? He's an American puppet. You know what I mean? Like many of the other American puppets that we know about. You understand? Haile Selassie was just, you know what I mean, one of these American puppets. You understand? Continue.
Under the motto, "Learn to the tiller," the students sought to limit property size and rights. In retaliation, the emperor suppressed all revolts through brutal methods, leaving no room for dissent. A special treatment was given to Eritrea and Ogaden, where burning and bombing of villages took place indiscriminately, leading to civilian casualties. As a result, the monarchy gradually lost its credibility in these regions and back home. To tighten his grip on power, the emperor employed feudal landlords, the church, and the military to maintain his rule. Now,
all right, now we are going to touch upon a different subject, you know. He relied on certain groups of people to maintain his rule. And one of these were the church. You know what I mean? Many Rastafarians praise Selassie as being the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, basically making him out to be Christ, right? But here you can see Selassie being a Christian, implying his Christian church to maintain power. You understand? What is that known as? That is known as church and state. You get what I say? Ethiopia ruled by church and state. Haile Selassie used the same church and state method that Rasta like to speak out against. You know what I mean? Haile Selassie used it to maintain power. And down in the video, it's going to tell you straight that the people didn't want to be ruled under this church and state method. When you stop make Selassie out to be nothing more than a tyrannical, you know what I mean, dictator that he is. He's not the king of Israel. You know what I mean? He's not our king. He's the Ethiopian king or emperor. And you can clearly see what the Ethiopian people thought of him. You understand? Continue.
Now, this is how it worked. The feudal landlords managed the provincial administration and taught people to obey the commands of their rulers. The church attributed divine powers to the emperor, and the whole socio-economic structure was maintained through the...
All right, now we are getting into the meat of the matter. The church attributed divine power to the emperor. Meaning, you see this mystical nature that you put upon Haile Selassie, it was given to him by the Christian church. So Rasta claiming that Selassie was this Christ-like figure. They are just regurgitating what the Christian church has made him out to be. It was the church in Ethiopia that gave Selassie this divine nature. You understand? So, uno talking about Selassie is the King of Kings and the Almighty and Rare is not phony words. This is the word of Christianity. That's why we say Rasta is Christianity. Uno God is a Christian and he ruled by implying the church and state method. You understand? Continuing.
Army, which controlled the country with ruthlessness. For centuries, the monarchy relied on a feudal mode of production, which had been the major element of the Ethiopian economy, with land being the most important means of production. However, land had been grabbed by the church, owning 25%, the emperor and his family 20%, the feudal landlords 30%, and the state 18%, leaving a mere 7% to the 23 million odd Ethiopian peasants.
All right, so basically the church owned what, 35% or 25% of the land? No, 35%, right? The emperor owned 25% of the land in Ethiopia. See? And some other groups own some major percentage as well. But the people in Ethiopia, you know what I mean, only own 7% of the land in Ethiopia. You understand? So basically, this was an oppressive state. You understand? And I want to bear in mind that the church owned more than Haile Selassie in Ethiopia. The Christian church, you understand, own majority of the lands in Ethiopia, which means that they had more power than the emperor himself. You understand? So, stop make this man out to be some kind of God when he was just one, an American puppet, and two, just another Christian. You know what I mean? And down in the video, it's going to show you where he, you know what I mean, basically squander these people money in order to, you know what I mean, live a lavish lifestyle. This man remind me of one of these Muslim, what you call them, sheiks. You know what I mean? Them rich Muslim prince and kings, they were flaunt them money and all them things there. That was the life that Haile Selassie lived. while his people were in poverty, suffering famine. You understand? Continuing.
In addition, the landless peasants surrendered as much as 75% of their produce to the feudal landlords as a form of tax. By 1974, the Ethiopians had reached a breaking point when the emperor became notorious for his attempts to conceal the existence of the Wollo famine that had hit the Wollo province in 1973. The concealment was so widespread that it became to be known as the hidden famine. 200,000 men, 650,000 cattle, 525,000 sheep, 450,000 goats, and 50,000 camels all perished without the world ever knowing about them.
All right, so Selassie now, is people going through famine, suffering, you know what I mean, dying, livestock dying. This man hid it from the world, you know what I mean? This man hid the fact that his people were suffering and did nothing to rectify the sufferation that his people were going through. You understand? This is the man that Rastafari call King, Haile Selassie, who they make out to be some kind of divine, you know what I mean, emperor. This is the man. He sound like to me that this is not more than a tyrannical, you know what I mean, dictator who cares nothing about his people. So you tell me, say, no, me if you go worship Selassie, subject myself to this Ethiopian tyrant. You know what I mean? La, we can't do that. Because our king, Yahawashi Mashiach, you know what I mean? Instead of living a lavish life while we suffer, you know what him do? He died for our sins. You understand? Him committing no crime himself, died for ours. You understand? So you clearly can see the difference between Haile Selassie and Yahawashi Mashiach. You understand? Yahawashi Mashiach put him life on the line for his people, while Haile Selassie lived lavish while his people died in famine. Continuing.
Reports of the famine were consistently ignored or denied by the emperor. In response to a report by UNICEF documenting famine conditions in July 1973, the Vice Minister of Planning stated, "If we have to describe the situation in the way you have in order to generate international assistance, then we don't need that assistance. The embarrassment to the government isn't worth it." When Haile Selassie later paid a visit to the area,
so in other words, if it means taking help from an outside source, right? If that means that no, you know what I mean, the ill care of this country, you know what I mean, goes to the public, that we didn't, you know what I mean, do our governance properly, it is not worth it. That is what, you know what I mean, one of Haile Selassie people them say. So rather than take UN help for helping people them who are dying of famine, him rather they die during the famine than take the help and have to bear the embarrassment. That is your emperor. You know what I mean? Speaking to the people them in the Rastafari community. That is your emperor. This is the man that you call God. This is the man that Mutar Baruka, Zin, claims that, you know what I mean, we need to follow. You understand? But this man was just a selfish Eden. You understand? Continuing.
he
All right, let me
merely
just skip
referred to
forward.
natural
We're going
disasters beyond
to
human
10
control
minutes and
that
55
had
seconds
often
into the video.
afflicted no results.
So this is where the people them decide, say, yo, no, we're going to topple the government. You understand? Yeah, man. So them decide, so them can't take no more of this. You know what I mean? This tyrant, Haile Selassie. So what the Ethiopian people decided that, you know what I mean, them now gonna have no more. So now them decide, say, yo, them are going to create unrest. You understand? Continue.
Defeated, the leaders of the mutiny did not stop the struggle. They left their best to the awakened people, including police officers, students, army, and other workers. On the 23rd of February, the emperor stepped in. While addressing his beloved people, as he would refer to them on radio and TV, Haile Selassie offered concessions. He postponed changes in the education system, reduced fuel price increases, and implemented price controls to check inflation. He also dismissed his prime minister, Haile Selassie, and agreed to revise the constitution to make the prime minister answerable to a parliament, a change that in Ethiopian terms would amount to a major reform. However, on the 25th of February, a more serious revolt broke out in Asmara, the capital of Eritrea, led by a group of sergeants and corporals. The mutineers took control of a radio station and broadcasted demands of more pay and improved conditions of service. They also demanded the removal of the emperor's grandson, Admiral Alexander Desta, as the commander of the army and other commanders they hated.
All right, let me just jump forward and show you where they arrested Selassie. So, all right, it is being rumored up into the Bobo Hill camp, you know what I mean? Among the Rastas, among the elders in the Bobo Hill camp. Zine, I spoke to one of them the other day, Zine, and he claims that Selassie is not dead. You understand? He claims that Selassie is not dead. But this African in this video is going to tell you, you know what I mean, how Selassie came to his death. You understand?
Only served for 4 months along with most of their cabinets, regional governors, and many senior military officials and officials of the imperial court were imprisoned. Moving slow but sure, the Dark systematically dismantled the entire imperial structure and numerous public institutions. In July and August, long lists of names of palace servants, top government officials, and prominent aristocrats, including Haile Selassie's closest advisors, were called on to give themselves up or face confiscation of their assets. Most surrendered voluntarily, while some were arrested by force. Hundreds were jailed in basements of buildings in the Grand Paris, packed so tight they had to take turns lying down on bare earthen floor for sleep. At the Jubilee Palace, the emperor's residence, he was only left with a handful of personal servants. Isolated, the Dag then turned to the emperor himself. They accused him of squandering the country's meager resources on expensive trips abroad and of being negligent to the wall of famine. At a 4-day secret meeting in early September, the Dag voted to dethrone Haile Selassie. On the 11th of September, 9 princesses, including the emperor's sole surviving daughter and 7 granddaughters, were imprisoned in a dungeon-like cell, their heads shaved, allowing only 2 mattresses to share between them. On the same day, officers from the Dag interrogated Haile Selassie on the whereabouts of his fortune. As one officer asked, "But surely, Your Majesty, you must have put something aside for your retirement." The emperor replied, "For an emperor, there is no retirement. Having not provided for our retirement, we have nothing."
So watch this now. So eventually they arrested Selassie, all his family, you know what I mean, because of the misgovernance of Ethiopia. See? So now they might try to find out where the wealth is. Where is all the wealth that, you know what I mean, Ethiopia had under Haile Selassie? Him being the emperor, you know what I mean, supposed to have all the wealth, right? They must search, them can't find it. Them say, sure, them interrogate him and say, surely you had prepared for your retirement. So where's the wealth? Him say, for your emperor, there is no retirement. So him never planned for your retirement, so him have nothing. In other words, Haile Selassie squandered the wealth of Ethiopia by living lavish, you know what I mean, having tigers as pets, you know what I mean, taking, which the video, you know what I mean, you can pre the video, it's Ethiopian Revolution, the brutal death of Emperor Haile Selassie. You can pre it on YouTube where it tells you that Haile Selassie, him squander the money by taking lavish trips. You know what I mean? Living this lavish lifestyle, meanwhile, his people suffered famine. You understand? So this is the man that Rastafari called King and God and Jesus. That Muta Baruka likes to, you know what I mean, all at IST. But we're not going to further into the video. You know what I mean? All right. So Lakia, let me just play the part where he died so you can understand that this man is actually dead. I wanted to go into some scripture I hope my brother Abadawan allows me. You know what I mean? I'm going over the time, but let me just fast forward.
And said he had been found dead in his bed by a servant, and that the cause of death was probably related to the effects of a prostate operation that he underwent 2 months earlier. "Will you please follow us?" said the major. "Where to?" asked the emperor. "To a safe place His Majesty will see," replied the major. Haile Selassie, who was accustomed to Rolls Royces, was placed into a tiny Volkswagen and drove through the empty streets of Addis Ababa to the 4th Division barracks. The emperor spent the last months of his life imprisoned in rooms in the Grand Paris. Within the hour, Radio Addis Ababa reported the DAG had freed Ethiopia from Haile Selassie's oppression. Haile Selassie died a prisoner on the 27th of August 1975. The DAG announced his death on a radiocast and said he had been found dead in his bed by a servant, and that the cause of death was probably related to the effects of a prostate operation that he underwent 2 months earlier.
All right, so he had a prostate operation, meaning he probably had prostate cancer. That was what killed Haile Selassie. You understand? Haile Selassie is not somewhere alive right now, or he's not sitting at the right-hand side of God. Surely, you understand, as Rasta would like, you know what I mean? If you listen to them, it's like that them why you believe that he is this mystical figure. Haile Selassie was just a tyrannical emperor, you know what I mean? Just another Eden who oppressed his people while living lavish. All right, so we're going to jump into some scripture right now, Zin, to show you that the Most High is not dealing with these Ethiopians. You understand? So we here in Jamaica need to come out of that mindset that, you know what I mean, the Most High has anything to do with Haile Selassie or the Ethiopians. So we're going to jump to the book of Amos, Zin, 9 and 7, and show you where the Most High, being grieved by us, start to disrespect us by calling us Ethiopians. And this is it, Amos 9 and 7. "Are ye not as the children of the Ethiopians unto me, O children of Israel, saith the Lord? Have not I brought up Israel out of the land of Egypt?" So the Most High say, "Una behave like Ethiopians, filthy, disgusting Edens." You understand? That is what the Most High is saying. That we, the children of Israel, have become so vile that we have now start behaving like Ethiopians. You understand? Continuing. "Have not I brought up Israel out of the land of Egypt, and Philistine from Captor, and the Syrian from Ker?" So the Most High is disrespecting us by calling us Ethiopians. All right. Zephaniah 2 and 12. It says, "Ye Ethiopians also, ye shall be slain by my sword." That is the promise that the Most High has for Haile Selassie and his people. So Rastafari, we need to come out of this, you know what I mean, this madness that Haile Selassie is some divine figure that we should reverence. You understand? And with that, I turn the class over to Priest and Officer Abadawan.